Buenos días. Continuamos con el desarrollo de la Training Academy. A continuación intervendrá don Eladio Fernández Galiano y don Stefano Dominioni, que hablarán sobre los desafíos y oportunidades de las rutas culturales en el siglo XXI y la introducción de esta Training Academy de las Rutas Culturales del Consejo de Europa. Sin más, paso la palabra a don Eladio Fernández Galiano.
Muchas gracias. Sorry, I have to speak in English now. Many thanks, Quintín, for your welcome. Many thanks to the previous speakers. They mentioned Ramon J. Sender, a writer from my region. And my congratulations to the Portuguese that are here with us. Today is a day for sardines, San Antonio, and that's what they... But let's go and then talk about cultural roots. My gratitude to Eleonora Berti. She should have delivered this speech, and she has actually written it for me. Only my apologies to the interpreters in advance, because I'm not very good at reading speeches someone else has written for me. So I will just follow my instincts and the watch, because as usual we are late, but it's normal conference. And anyway, we are in Spain where we are flexible with time, because time is relative. The first thing the first question that when we have to speak about the challenges and opportunities of cultural roots is this program on cultural roots still, valid and still sensible and still worth its value 30 years later? We are not talking about the same Europe. Actually, I was saying before that Europe is in crisis. Because the whole idea of Europe, although Europe is a very successful, endeavor, it's in crisis. And then when you're in crisis, I always remember the very interesting words of Ignacio de Loyola. Ignacio de Loyola was a Spanish saint. He founded the first international company. It was in 5 continents, called La Compañía de Jesús, the Jesus Company. And he was a very good manager. And he said, in times of crisis, do not make big changes. Lo traduciré en español: en tiempos de desolación, no hacer mudanza, sino seguir firme en las ideas que habían inspirado nuestro afán, o algo parecido. So, which means that, it is now, when Europe is in crisis, to come back to our principles and to see and have a look whether they are worth or not. And my opinion is that, yes, they are worth, they are delivering value for our societies. And in this moment in which, we have globalization, we have new challenges, when the whole economy and the whole life is becoming very electronic, and when we seem to lose contact with not just the ground, but with reality, is this cultural roots program still worth? I think yes, and I think even more so than before, because we need to work in what the cultural roots have always promoted, the multilateral, this intercultural approach. We are doing that, in a way that try to bring the people of Europe together, like other programs in the European sphere, like Erasmus, like a lot of them. So the fundamental aims of the program are still relevant today. First of all, because international organizations have a tendency to fly. We have big ideas. We made a European Cultural Convention because, this is not just our only program in culture. We had a European Cultural Convention right after the Council of Europe was born. But we try to fly. And this program is based on, is grassroots. We are touching the ground. We are coming to places like Yuste. We are meeting people that are working every day for the livelihoods, for promoting, the enhancement and preservation of our cultural heritage. And this is important. We are not talking in general. We're talking about, values that we all like and we all share. So besides, we think that Europe needs to engage into a democratic approach, and to cooperate along borders, This Europe of the borders, this is what we are seeing now, more borders and borders. Now when I go back to Strasbourg, the first thing I have to do is show my passport to the douanier. This didn't happen 10 years ago. Now we see, Europe being like a defensive. We see, the Austrian presidency, in a few days, with all this very, very anti-immigrant, anti-xenophobic, principle. This is a problem. So that's why, cultural roots break the barriers. You see the Camino de Santiago. I never know how to say it in English. The St. James Way. This is a place where Europe was made by walking. These ideas went through. There were no borders that peregrines would not cross. So against this Europe of borders, we push for a Europe of people that meet each other, that we go over the borders. And that's very important. This is also places for innovation. All of you are having great ideas, trying to improve your routes, to improve the way in which they are seen, the way in which they are meaningful to the idea that the route brings, but also to the people that's going to be affected or touched by the routes. And it's also, and I think very important, we have here people from the University of Barcelona, Benvingut, and from Paris and other universities, from Jaén and other, this is what progress is about. A few years ago, there was the Lisbon program for making Europe great again, for making Europe more sustainable. This was in the middle of the crisis. And this was the Lisbon agenda, meant that it's through knowledge that Europe is going to, Europe is knowledge services. That's why it's very important that we keep alive this idea that the cultural roots need knowledge. Actually, the cultural roots are one of the most, more relevant and more important programs in what the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe endorsed last year. It is the strategy for cultural heritage for the 21st century. We realized at the Council of Europe we had done a lot of things about culture and cultural heritage. We had a convention of Granada about architectural heritage. We had a La Valletta convention about archaeology, very important because it's our history. If we don't have no roots, we are flying away. We have no place to. People need roots. People need identity, and this identity is often in our history. The Chinese say, without the past, the present has no shape, because the past has shaped our present. So this strategy for the 21st century tried to make a kind of cement to all the things we were doing, the Council of Europe was doing in cultural heritage. And it had three components. First, the social component. We are not keeping cultural heritage for the sake of a few privileged, that know the difference between late Romantic and period late Romantic, or we are not keeping our cultural heritage. We are not keeping our creative industries just for the pleasure of the few. We are doing this because this brings prosperity to our societies, particularly to places like this where we are. This is part. I come from in Spain from a place called Teruel. It's a desert. It lost half its people in less than 10 years in the 50s and 60s. Now this we call La España vacía, the empty Spain. What these places have, the delegate of culture was telling before, desertification, people going is a main problem. So what can we bring? We can bring places like this and put them to use for the economy. That's the social and sustainable development component of the cultural roots, and this is a fundamental part of it. We have, you know, I talk about knowledge and education, and also, you know, all the important thing about identity, the way in which cultural heritage can bring us, can give us a sense of belonging. So all this was a very important part of this European strategy for cultural heritage for the 21st century that we presented last year formally in the very beautiful island of Cyprus, which I recommend. And you know, what things can we do? You know, what can be our course of action? Eleonora, that has been working for the program for more than 10 years and is, of course, much more knowledgeable, has written a few ideas. I'm going to pass them to her. By the way, I regret she's not here. She had a little girl not long ago, so motherhood, you know, it's now a priority for her, so we understand this. So, first, you need to put together culture and heritage at a national level and build, you know, coalitions within your states. In Spain, cultural heritage is devolved to the regions in a sense. Well, devolved is not the right word, but you know, it's back in the region. So this will be at the local level. You know, there is a lot of local know-how, but this local know-how is like grain that would fall on the stones if you don't use it. Around cultural heritage, about all the stories, you know, I think also that the cultural roots is a very telling and very important part of the practical application of a Council of Europe convention called the Faro Convention on the importance of cultural heritage for societies, in which we are promoting that cultural heritage is not just done by the ministers or by the mayors or by some, but it's done by, you know, taking societies, taking communities into this common work for cultural heritage. And I think this you know, you cannot sit there and wait for money come from the ministry to do your thing. You have to go, meet the university, meet the people, get that, you know, that this is taken by the people. Because this is what democracy is about, not just a few guys elected once every 4 years and changing government whenever they feel. So, you know, I think that this consultation with the local population is important because it's the basis of sustainable development and what we call responsible tourism. By the way, cultural roots, don't forget it, it's about tourism. Don't think that, you know, in universities it's only about science, it's only about it's about, you know, making people move, making, you know, the economy grow. So that's why it's very important to raise awareness on the values that are in a particular region, in a particular area, in a particular route. I mean, if the route is La Route du Vin d'Alsace, well, you know, there will be people knowledgeable that will not only bring, yes, this is not something for selling wine or bringing tourists. This is something to show the know-how, to show the values. I mean, one of the routes I like very much because I'm a Mediterranean, and then all Mediterraneans in the end will like olive oil. So there is this route about, you know, all the culture around these old olive orchards, you know, but it's not just the physical. For me, it's important because it's landscape, it's culture, it's know-how, it's people, and I have been invited to go. By the way, it's in my region, so I will go to see one of the many parts, you know, and I think it's also important. So it's also important to develop materials for visitors. It's also very important to produce, not just going to the internet, because not everyone goes on the internet, or people go internet for other things, you know. Don't think that internet is going to solve all communication problems. You have to use also traditional media, guidebooks, and, you know, and promote. And also look that tourism doesn't become a problem. I mean, some cities are suffering. The cultural heritage of some cities, I have in the mind Venice, you know. Venice has gone beyond any control, I think. Well, now they say they are going to stop, but is this the tourism we want? Is this sustainable, or is this just a money-making machine out of the beauty of a jewel we inherited from people that were certainly had a sense of beauty incredible, So what are the goals for the years to come? And I will make my talk shorter because we are a little late, and now I adapt very well to Mediterranean timetables. I think that also that it's good to be reasonably brief. So, something we don't always say about heritage, it is, and I think it's very important, it's easy to come here and say, Yuste is wonderful because it's Extremadura, but I think what's important is to show that Europeans, we do have a common history and a common heritage, and that our borders are artificial. The other day I was talking about borders at the Council of Europe, and I show a map of the borders of Europe, 4 centuries ago. They were nothing to do with the borders we have now. So borders move. But this European identity, this exchange of culture, has only barriers due to language, but not to thinking. By the way, science has no borders at all. That's the sector I come from. So I think it's also important that your roots become also innovate, that innovate in all kinds, and that you make other people know that you are innovation, so that we can learn from each other. The reason why we are here is because one route is bringing a very interesting idea. I welcome the route impressionism. We say, yes, it is about this way of, but this is the way in which you can take art to the street. You can revitalize a whole district. I've seen this, for instance, in the district of Moriria in Lisbon, where art has been used as a way to innovate. By the way, it was a very badly district. Nobody would enter there 15 years ago. I didn't dare to enter because it looked very dangerous. Now it's a beautiful one. Now it's been a little gentrified, but I think a positive gentrification. So it's also important that you have no complexes in speaking loud for your root and for cultural heritage, and how much this brings to society, but not to just little pennies, but to the fundamentals of society. This bringing people together, because this bringing people together, this breaking of all the xenophobia. Xenophobia is based on ignorance of the other. Xenophobia can kill the European project. It's already made one country go, the United Kingdom. They were always in the middle of the sea. They need to know which way to go. Brexit has been terrible for the European Union, But in the end, it's like a little girl asked her mother, the United Kingdom, they are not going to be in Europe anymore. To which continent they are going? They are, whether they like it or not, they will still be in Europe. So they will be still linked with us. They don't know how to get out of this mess that xenophobia put them. Let's hope they find a way. And so don't be shy in your projects. Show everything you're doing for the communities, for the economy. Meet new friends. Don't get close into your own route. You may have a very interesting route about rock art, but perhaps you have to learn something from a route about Charles V, or about Charlemagne, or about another route. So don't keep in the roots. It's a challenge for you to meet other routes. I'm sure the last way, I see our colleagues from the north, the last way have a lot of things to learn from Santiago. Perhaps if it's not because Santiago, was such a great success. Stefano and I were there last year for the 30th anniversary of the route. And they say, well, we register pilgrims, but registered pilgrims are those that have walked the last 100 kilometers, so there are not that many of them. And some of them, friends of mine, are starting in Sweden. Every year they do a little bit. So registered pilgrims had passed from 3,000 when the program became a European cultural route, to 300,000 last year. So this has multiplied by 10. You know, this city, Santiago, is living from two main sources of income, of revenue. One, the regional government, you know. Second is Santiago. And people say they come, pilgrims come all the time of the year, not just in summer. And I saw it. Because the weather was horrible, and yet there were a lot of pilgrims. So please don't work on your own. Do meet more the local authorities. Do try to get more connected with authorities. They may have also resources, who knows. So, you know, reinforce the role of cultural roots as soft powers grassroots. You know, you are in democracy 100%. So don't be shy, say all these things, say them loud, because these are what Europe is now pushing for. So, and then I will read them and conclude my speech just by reading what Eleonora, which I'm very thankful to her, not just for this speech, but, well, you know, a lot of, I reinterpreted speeches. But the way in which she has contributed for 10 years or more to this program. You know, she says three main themes: heritage, knowledge, and innovation. This explores the dimension of study, education, science, and digital technology as a means to enhance access and enjoyment of heritage, contributing to lifelong education and training. Oh my God, the sentences are too long for me, sorry. So you have to look for new opportunities for the cultural and tourist sector. The second main theme she proposes is heritage and sustainability. You know, now we are undergoing a main environmental crisis called climate change. Sustainability is more important than ever. So she says we have to put clearly that enhancing heritage through cultural roots is a way to contribute to sustainable development. You know, and not just about the tangible things, about the intangible, all the cultural arts and the rest. And the three, you know, we need to have models of management of cultural roots because they are so complex. They touch so many aspects. They are so multifaceted. So, you know, we are in the look for models. Some of you are coming here as candidate roots, not yet candidates, but wishing to become candidate roots. I'm sure that the ways of management of some very established roots will be useful to you. So the Training Academy will be an opportunity to have a look at all these issues. I welcome in the name of the Council of Europe you all, and indeed, I thank you very much for your very kind attention. I don't know whether you want to have the questions now or later, as Quintin, who is the boss, will tell us.
Yeah.
Quintin.
So I think just to save some time, we will have the questions later. And we'll have now the presentation from Stefano Dominioni, which is the director of the Institute for Cultural Roots.
Thank you very much. Just a few words to welcome you to the Training Academy. The national authorities and regional authorities have already been thanked. Arandia de la Vera and Quacos de Yuste. I would like to thank the organizers of the Academy because they have really bared a lot of the responsibility in putting this very interesting program together. In the name of Quintin Corrales Domingo, the manager of the Cooperation Network, European Roots of the Emperor, Charles V, and Miguel Angel Martin Ramos, he's the secretary to the network and also to the European and Ibero-American Academy of Yuste Foundation. So, and also, of course, to the team in Luxembourg. And we're very, very grateful to all the roots being here today. I have counted 20 roots certified by the Council of Europe program, and also about 15 projects that are interested in the program, and they are very keen to follow the methodology. Special thanks to Eladio Fernández Galiano. He, as you know, have been following the program, supervising its operation for the last 6 years. He will retire from the Council of Europe at the end of this month, but continue following the work of the Cultural Roots program in a new capacity as a special advisor. So we will continue having his involvement and expertise in the future. And also thanks to the chair of the governing board of the Enlarged Partial Committee on Cultural Roots, Mariana Berger-Marjanovic, for being here today. Right there. Governments are a very important partner of the Cultural Roots program, and therefore we are very, very keen on their continued support. So just a few words about the Training Academy this year, but the Training Academy in general, as a kind of Secretary of the Council of Europe, we have a responsibility to also provide support to the development of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe. It's in the statutory texts. The resolution of the Committee of Ministers calls for continuous training, upgrading of skills and competencies of the roots and their management. So we co-organize every year an annual training session for roots managers and their affiliates. This is the methodology is as such that every year there is a route that provides the logistics. So we're very, very thankful to the European Roots of the Emperor Charles V this year, because they have provided the logistics in all the facilities, and also put together the program with us. Last year was on the Transromanica route in Romania. So every year one route hosts the event. Why do we have a training academy? It's important that routes get together to exchange practices. And the methodology that we have now been developing, and in particular this year, is that the routes themselves are really the protagonists of the Training Academy. They present their own activities, their own best practices. There's an exchange between managers with the coordination, very light coordination of the Secretariat, and also of the academics that I would like to thank. This year from Spain and France and Switzerland, we have academics that are part of our network of universities from Paris, from Barcelona, and from Switzerland. We have a variety of different speeches on trends, on innovation, on new technologies, and on partnerships. This is some of the novelties that we see coming in the field of cultural roots. So you will be discussing in different working groups, in different thematic areas. So we have been witnessing a growth and expansion of the Cultural Roots program. It has been said before, over the last few years, in particular, especially since the establishment of the Committee of Ministers agreement on cultural roots, the trend is growing, I would say, exponentially, both in terms of cultural roots that have been certified by the Council of Europe, but also in terms of new projects that are interested in joining the program. Also, the membership along the routes has grown. We have statistics that show that each route has been expanding its own networks of members and associates. Therefore, there is also a growth, and I would say a very welcome growth also in terms of the geography of the routes and an expansion towards also Eastern Europe, Southeast Europe. We have representatives of the Russian Federation here today, Slovenia. So we see a witnessing of an enlarged geography of the cultural roots, and that's very much welcome as well. So the growth is also financial. Lots of new projects have been awarded financing at the European level through a number of European Union funding schemes. So I think all these trends kind of go in the right direction. But there's also an awareness of kind of the larger kind of cultural tourism sector. Eladio mentioned the cultural tourism aspect. It's important for regional and local development. We have witnessed also an interest of the tourism sector at large tourism events. FITUR, we're in Spain, so you very well know the FITUR event once a year. We have been present there for the program, thanks also to the Extremadura region, but also also in Berlin, with the ITB Berlin, there's a growing interest for this kind of cultural travel. The media has given attention to the cultural routes through articles, through large reportage on TV and the media. So it's all positive trends. So welcome to all of you. This is going to be a very interesting training academy. The organizers have also put together a very interesting kind of a side program. It's part of the deal, cultural experience of Extremadura, the region, and the Charles V cultural route. So this is part also of being local, being on the ground, having the chance to walk in the footsteps of our European heritage. And so we say welcome to all of you, and we are going to provide support, but this is the training academy hosted by Charles V. Therefore, it's their academy, it's your academy, and we will be here to help throughout the sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefano. And well, before the coffee, maybe you have some questions, either for the speech of Eladio or for the speech of Stefano. I think this is a good moment for the general questions you may have or general strategic questions. I know this is always the difficult part because we are at the beginning, we had to talk, and no one wants to make the first questions. I will do the first one, so that is my role. Also to break the ice, to, as we say in Spanish, para romper el hielo. And I have two main questions for you. One is for Eladio, because the experience you have, what you say, we talk about the importance of those European values and those steps backwards we are doing on European projects. And I would like to know, how do you see the future? Because we are here talking about, in this training academy, about trends, new trends, innovation, new trends. And how do you see, also because, which will be your future as the special advisor to the cultural roots and so on. How do you see the future in 10 years, for instance, or which is your wish, not how you see, because, well, the future is difficult to forecast, but how do you see or would like to see the cultural roots in 10 years? And then I have also a question for Stefano, which is a more executive question, because I'm also related with this relation with European values and European goals. How do you see this in the future, this relationship with the European Union on this, how we can work together? Because here is something we are going to talk also about in one of the sessions, the partnerships, the importance of international partnerships. So these are my main two questions for both of you. And then please raise your hands, and I will give you also the floor to answer your questions. So you can answer.
Miguel, thank you very much for your question. You know, I am an optimist. I have worked in nature conservation for more than 30 years. If you are not an optimist, you die, because you have so many bad news. So how do I see the roots in 10 years? I see the roots. I see between 40 and 50 roots. Now we have 32 parties. Sorry. We have 32 parties. I see at least 40 parties. I see a program. Because of my experience at the Council of Europe, I know how this evolves. And we are now in a snowballing effect. I think to Stefano very, very dearly. I mean, one of my best professional decisions was to call him for this job. I mean, and I think that this energy is contagious. And that we are going to get more and more, and especially we are going to get routes that will be more professional and better managed and more successful. You know, this is what we have seen in the. I have to recognize, by the way, thanks to the people that came before us, people like one of my former bosses, Jose Maria Ballester, the people that had this idea first 30 years ago, you know, and then you know, I see certainly. As well as I am not so optimistic to the future of Europe, because we are now in a crossroads, either we go to more xenophobia or to more union. I hope that we shall go to more union, but I don't know. For the cultural roots, at least, I see a great future in front of us, and especially because I see so much energy in all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. It's a complex question. The relationship between the Cultural Roots Program, the Council of Europe, and the European Union. There are some good aspects of such cooperation. I can say that at the institutional level, the relationship between the Council of Europe and the European Union is strong, is very good. We have a number of opportunities to cooperate. One is the membership at the European level through the enlarged partial agreement on cultural roots. The European Union has an observer status. They do attend the meetings on an irregular basis. They were present a year ago with the European Parliament was present and the Commission was present with the representative. They do come on a regular basis to our annual forums. So we always have representatives of the Parliament, the Commission, the Committee of the Regions, at the technical level, the Directorate Generals of the Commission. So that working relationship is working well. We also have traditionally been granted joint programs. So there is funding that the Commission awards directly the Council of Europe to implement activities in the field of cultural roots. We had grants from the Directorate General in charge of tourism, now the Directorate General in charge of regional development. So there is that kind of institutional relationship. There is a memorandum of cooperation between the two organizations. So we do have that level. And also there is the ability to the Cultural Roots program to provide visibility. At EU level, we are invited to speak at the Parliament sessions on in the Committee of Culture. The Committee of the Regions provide us the floor as well. We're invited to events in Brussels. So visibility and communication through the Commission is ensured. Where it's a little bit more tricky is the funding, I would say, provided to the cultural roots themselves. We have a variety of cultural roots that have been awarded funding by European Commission through a variety of schemes, be Interreg programs, Horizon, Creative Europe, COSME projects. So there is that kind of direct grants awarded to our roots. What we have not yet been successful in doing is really institutionalizing this kind of relationship. We would like to see somehow the certification of the cultural roots of the Council of Europe as not only an added value and a label of excellence, but in a way, a way to signal to the European Union and its institutions that these roots are somehow in a way excellent projects, and therefore should be kind of treated that way when selecting applicants for funding. So we don't have a kind of direct award system by which we don't have a program as such by which the cultural roots will be the specific, let's say, a target of a specific funding. So cultural roots have to apply, as everybody else, to general line of funding from the Commission, and then compete with hundreds of other projects. So we are been discussing that in a number of ways with the Commission. What we have done this year, since we have this direct grant, is we took the initiative ourselves in the Secretariat to create what we call small, like a mini grants for the cultural roots. So there will be a direct award for mini grants to our certified cultural roots, but this is just a drop in the ocean. But the future is positive in many ways. We have been able to kind of call on the European Parliament. You might be familiar with a report that the Parliament issued last year on the role of cultural heritage in international relations. This was the Costa report, triggered by a communication by the Director General of the DG Education and Culture, Commissioner Navracic, Commissioner, not the Director General, and the Vice President of the Commission, Mogherini. They had this joint statement. Following that, the Parliament issued a report, and in the report, the Cultural Routes of the Council of Europe program, the enlarged partial agreement, is kind of singled out as one of the key partners of both the Commission and the External Action Service. So there has been very high-level discussions between Council of Europe and the External Action Service of the Commission to really strengthen the cooperation further. And the Commission is especially interested in kind of accession countries. So Southeast Europe, the Mediterranean as target geographical areas to use cultural routes as a way to foster cultural diplomacy. They even established what they called European routes in Western Balkans, kind of mirroring somehow our program at the Council of Europe. So there is this that is promising. The difficulty is that we do not have kind of an institutional membership in the partial agreement. The European Commission and the European Union are observers. They could join, but legally it's complicated. There's a lot of legal elements that have to be worked out. But I think long-term the trend is positive. One positive aspect, and I will end here, is the joint venture in France, in Paris. There is a very important meeting every year. It's the Salon International du Patrimoine. It's like the heritage forum for heritage in France, but it's international. And this year, because it's the European Year of European Heritage, there has been an agreement that we would have a common stand at the Salon, Council of Europe, and the European Commission. So we will be there to promote activities, in particular cultural routes of the Council of Europe and also the European Heritage Days, because the Commission really values the Cultural Routes program and the activities of the Council of Europe for a very specific reason. It's only the Council of Europe that has designed a truly transnational cultural heritage program. The Cultural Routes program is among, let's say, the program available, one of the few, a really unique program being able to transmit this European a shared heritage. Most of the other programs, they call themselves European, but if you look in detail, they're really kind of national events broadcasted at European level. So the national component is still very, very present in many of the activities that the European Union does. The Cultural Routes program is among the unique transnational programs at the European level. So the European Union has understood that. Therefore, they have now joined forces with us. We will be presenting together. And I think long-term, there will be what they call in French, a rapprochement between European Union and Council of Europe. I think that we have already signaled to them that we want to work together. And I think we have a good hope that this will happen in the next few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefano, for this news and also for this information. And I really also hope that this will work, because for me, it's something that should go hand by hand. I mean, I don't see one thing since the other. So this is really necessary, and hopefully laws that are so needed sometimes they put problems and sticks in the wheels, as we say in Spain. But I'm sure we will manage to go ahead with that. So any questions from the public, either on this topic or the other topics related? I had one question here. You had the micro. You present yourself, please.
Hello, good morning. So my name is Pierre Bedouel, and actually I'm the president of Impressionism Routes, which is the new route that has been certified this year. Actually, it's more like an open question, and I understand that this is the general part, so I don't know if it is a question to be answered now, or to be discussed, or to be an input for the workshops for the next 2 days, or at least it is a question that I have for the other routes, and if they have any best practice on this point, I would be very interested. We are meeting Yuste, and I guess that Yuste is important in Spain. I'm not sure that Yuste is well known apart in other areas of Europe, and this is what I think is the beauty of this program. is that we're not meeting in Madrid or Barcelona. We're meeting in a place where Europe is. And this is really what I value in this program, and this is where I really want to invest. But my question actually comes from I would say, my former hat as a mayor. Is to do so, we need the support and the involvement of local authorities and the mayors. But actually the primary need, I would say the first mission of a mayor is to serve the primary needs of its citizens. And unfortunately, culture and tourism are not the primary needs for the vast majority of them. And this question, you have it all over Europe. Last week I was in Balestrand in Norway. You probably never heard about Balestrand, but this is one of those places across in Europe where you have well known as an artistic place. The first thing the mayor said was exactly this. My duty as a mayor is to serve the primary needs of my citizens, and culture and tourism are not part of them. So the question now is, how can we help them as cultural roots? How can we help those people to get involved in our program, which means that how can we help them to, between quotes, sell this idea of joining a route or to be involved in culture and international relationships? How can we help them to sell this idea to their council, to their citizens? So this, I don't know if you have any answer to that, or if this could be discussed in the workshops. The theme of our meeting is innovation and new trends. I'm pretty sure that this can help in that respect. And the question is how the Council of Europe could help us to help them to do so.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. There is any other questions, so we could answer several questions at the same time? Or you answered that question already? Yeah.
Maybe just a couple of thoughts, because that's exactly one of the reasons why we kind of host these training academies, to give the opportunity to exchange the best practices. In the room, there is a number of cultural routes that have hundreds of members, and those are municipalities, local authorities. They will be able to tell you le parcours, like the history, starting with a dozen cities federated and now having 150 to 200 municipalities represented by their mayors. The history of the Cultural Roots program also is a history that is always in motion, in progress, in development. We take a picture every year, but roots expand, contract sometimes, but in general grow. There are a number of tools that we use to raise awareness of local and regional authorities. One is at Council of Europe level is the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities. Next Monday we will be presenting the program at the Bureau of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities in Europe. The Congress represents I think something like 500 local authorities and regional authorities Europe-wide. So it's a transmission chain. We present to the Congress in Strasbourg. They will then provide visibility and a multiplying effect at local level. So the information will trickle down throughout Europe at the local level. The roots have the main responsibility in promoting themselves, on those kind of partners that they have identified, so they do their own development. I know some presidents and managers of cultural roots that for years went mayor to mayor, knocking on the mayor's doors, making the case. I was recently in Champlit, a small town near, like in Bourgogne, Haute-Saône. And Champlit, the mayor was there, and once upon a time, for the Via Francigena, France was not so popular in terms of membership. Now the network is expanding dramatically fast in France. So there is this development at local level. So those are the tools. So visibility at European, national, the ministries also are getting more and more involved. The Ministry of Culture in France is getting involved by attending some of these events at local level. So we are trying to involve all the different levels with a number of tools that we have at our disposal. But at the end of the day, the Roots have the major responsibility. One of the aspects that we will be discussing today and tomorrow and the next days at the Training Academy is also how to involve potential, let's say, members in the development of the Roots, in joining the Roots later on. And we have a number of ideas, but I will not give them away right away. But there is a possibility also to innovate in terms of membership as well. So for the moment, that's...
I would like to add something on your specific questions. Yes, but the people in my town, you know, they work, they have other worries. Well, yeah, what worries they are? Employment, you know, not having to migrate. But look here, look at Yuste. I mean, 30 years ago, this was a very depressed area. You know, of course, you know, everyone knew about Yuste. Some of us curious came here. There were very few hotels, you know. Or go to all this Saint-Jacques Way, these little villages in the middle of nowhere in North Spain, or you know, or in France, or, you know. And then they saw people coming, and they see here in Cuacos and in Jarandilla that the king comes every year, and they come because of this cultural heritage, because of history. People are fundamentally clever, you know. You go around Jarandilla or around Cuacos, you will see a lot of rural, you know, new hotels that did not exist at all, you know, 30 years ago. So, I mean, people know that because of cultural tourism, not cultural tourism, I think it's also linked to nature, because it's a fantastic nature, you know. People understand that they have jobs or they don't have to migrate. So it's very easy to tell them what they win. And I think it's an easy message from a mayor to pass to its citizens. Look, you may not have a job if you know these things were not happening. So, anyway, I don't want to be between you and your coffee. So, right.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I think the answer was more or less answered. I could add, because of our experience, that two things. Two secrets you have to follow. One is you have to believe on it, to believe it is possible. You have to work very hard, very, very hard. It took us 18 years to get to this situation. So work hard, believe on it, and you will get it. And of course, now you have the support of all the Roots and the Council of Europe that will be close to you to help you, because we have the experience we can share with you. This training academy is for that. So, because we have now the coffee, and I know there will be more questions coming on, and we will have many time for debate, so we go for the coffee, and we continue in around 20-25 minutes. Thank you very much.